So, unfortunately, as I'm sure you guys are all aware, the shop night was canceled this year. Unfortunately, last year it was a blast. Had a good show out and feel like everybody learned something. So this year we're going to do just a couple videos just to try to give you somewhat of an idea what to check for and what to do, what you should be looking for before each ride, kind of quick maintenance things. And this is going to be mostly players based, but I will be able to touch on a few other things if there are questions, which you'll just have to either contact Allie or Morgan for those questions, and then we'll do our best to help you guys out from there and hopefully give you a better understanding of what needs to happen and how it needs to happen. So first things first, I think the most important part and also the most neglected part of a sled is your clutches and your belt. Now, this is a new sled, so it's not going to have any belt dust or anything, but as you can see sitting there right now, the tension's a little loose and it's sitting down super low in that clutch, so it's not actually where it should be. So I will adjust that in a minute here and show you how it should look. But what we're going to do first is we're just going to grab a blowgun with some compressed air, and we're just going to so, blow it all out best you can, rotate it a little bit. Blow it out some more, and then do your best to do the secondary as well. You kind of got to rotate the track to spin it as well, but just kind of spray in there. Blow it out best you can. You can't really get too much out of the secondary on these ones, but means there's also not a whole lot of clutch dust getting in there, so that's a good thing. So now I will adjust this belt, and it's just an 11 mil or 7/16, depending on what you have, to crack that nut loose. And then to tighten the belt, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to use that little Allen key there and back that out, and then we're going to hold that threaded part with the Allen key, and then we're just going to tighten this nut up, and then it'll be sitting good where it should. So, just gonna put the Allen key in like that and tighten up the nut now. Once I have it set where I want it, I'll show you where you want it and how to check it in a second here. So you just hold that so it doesn't spin, give her a little crank, make sure it's tight, make sure it's not gonna come loose, and then, Now it is always good to bring these tools with you up on the hill, just in case you need to adjust it again, as they do stretch out with time. So now, as you can see, it's sitting just barely, or the cord's sitting just barely below the clutch, and the teeth of that belt are sitting just above. Now, as you can see, it's got some good tension to it, and I believe the spec is about an inch down from there. Kind of hard to measure, and they do need to be adjusted quite a bit. So I normally just set them like that and then start them up, make sure they're not squealing, make sure they're not trying to roll away on you, and you'll be good to go. Okay, so next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna insert this little clutch tool, which sits in your side panel here and holds it together if you're running a newer axis. You're just gonna pull that off, thread that in. Ooh, struggling a little bit. There we go. We're gonna thread that in, and as that threads in, the secondary clutch expands, drops the belt deeper into it, and loosens off. So we're gonna thread that in as far as we can. Now, this special tool is the best thing to use for this. If you can find a bolt with the same thread pattern as those, it will work. But if you don't have one of those tools, you should probably get one, and it'll make your life way easier. Kind of just work the belt around off the top like that, and then this. Then you just kind of got to roll it out through the secondary. As it's a little tight, just roll out like that, and then you're just going to check the sides of the belt. You're going to check all the way around for cord. It will go black in a couple spots, but as long as it's not missing, it'll all be good, and you'll be able to tell if it's missing. There'll be a big, nice groove in that belt. So what you're gonna check is you're just gonna check the face of this belt here. You're going to make sure it's nice and smooth all the way across. No big grooves in it, no divots, no nothing. You'll see for sure. It'll look cooked if it has been cooked. And if it's been cooked, it'll be a good thing to replace. Lots of the times when you get a couple 100K on them, they'll start looking all glazed over. And if that happens, just take some Scotch-Brite and some brake clean and just go over top of it and brake clean it all off, and you'll get a couple 100 extra K out of it. Normally when they get glossed like that, you'll start losing RPM, and it's normally a good idea to change your belt anyways. So we'll just set that up there for now. Next thing we're going to check is going to be our primary sheaves, and they as well should be just smooth all the way across. As you can see, this one's still brand new, so it is in mint shape. Once they get bunch of wear on them, as you can see, this one's already got a couple black marks on it. Again, brake clean, a little bit of Scotch-Brite, just scuff that off. Then brake clean it off, wipe it dry, and then that'll all be good. Another good thing to always check is your spring, because they do break every now and again. Just make sure it's not obviously rattling around completely loose in there, and just kind of give your clutch a push, and it should be nice and stiff. It'll be very hard to move, and that's normal. Might not even be able to get it compressed, but everything else is a little more in-depth in the primary clutch, but at least it'll give you a good start, and you'll be able to tell how your clutch is doing by the sheaves. Now we're going to do the same thing to the secondary as well. We're just going to still have the tool in there so it's nice and spread apart. Just going to run our fingers through, make sure it's not grooved. You can roll it over, make sure there's no nicks or big dings in it or anything. Another good thing to check for on the primary, I forgot to mention, is to check it for cracks. I know it's really hard to see in there, but shine a light, do your best to see. Every now and again they crack, and when they blow up, it's not good. But that pretty much sums it up for our clutch service. So I'm going to throw this belt on, and then we're going to move back and do a track alignment and make sure it's good. And as of right now, as you can see, it is clearly not aligned, Dylan. But we'll get that sorted out, and we'll make sure the tension's good, and then we'll send her out the door. So in order to do this track alignment, first things first, we got to loosen this bolt here. It is a 16 mil. And then you're going to loosen this jam nut right there, also a 16 mil. Same thing on the other side. Loosen that one there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to grab a 10 mil wrench. I got a ratchet wrench, makes it easier. And now, so we want the track to shuffle that way, as this side has a little bit of window showing, and this side is just not quite there yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our 10 mil and tighten this side. We'll do 2 half turns. So now that we've done our 2 half turns, I'm gonna go just a little bit more because it didn't quite move it as much as I wanted it to. So now that it's moved over a little bit, what we're gonna do is we're gonna start the sled, and we're gonna give it some throttle. We're gonna let the track do approximately 5 revolutions, and then we're gonna let it come to a coasting stop. You're not gonna wanna hit the brake during this part. You're gonna wanna just let the track slow down and stop by itself. So I'll kind of give you an idea. So now we're just gonna check it and see we're getting closer there. Now we got a little bit more showing there, but it's getting a little on the tight side. So what we're gonna do is we're going to just loosen this side off. We'll do maybe another turn, maybe another 2 half turns is kind of what I'm thinking. There we go. Now start it up again and check it again. So now that we've got her aligned on both sides, it's even. You kind of just pull up on the track and you kind of get as low as you can and try to get it as close as you can. It's kind of hard to get it perfect, but the closer you get it, the better it is. So next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna just check our track tension and make sure it's set. Thing is about setting tracks, you wanna set them as loose as you possibly can, because then there's less resistance when it's rolling, which in turn gives you more power. But you don't wanna run it too loose. Otherwise, your drivers will not grip the track properly and it will, in fact, wreck your track. So now with the help of my handy dandy assistant right there, we are going to be checking this track tension. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to measure from the center of the bolt back there. You're going to want to go 16 inches. And then if you have a fish scale or anything like this one's not calibrated, so it says we're at 23, but that's because it sits at 13. You're going to want to put 10 pounds of down pressure on the track. And then on a Polaris, the spec for it, the spec that they call for, is 3/8 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab this tape measure here. Ooh, struggling a little bit. Yeah, thanks, Dale. So now we're just gonna butt this up against the track there, and we're just gonna check it. And sitting right there, we are just a little under 7/8. So that's kind of on the high side of spec, but like I said, the looser the better. As long as you're not ratcheting, you shouldn't have an issue. Again, it's always good to bring the tools to tighten that track, because some snowpacks you'll ratchet, other ones you won't. So that pretty much sums up kind of our general pre-ride check. You can always check your sliders just along there. There'll be a wear bar right there. Just make sure that it's good all the way back. Make sure that they're not completely shot. You're gonna just wanna check your skegs. Just make sure they got that little carbide there. Make sure they're not super worn out. Check to make sure nothing's bent in the front end. You'll see if one ski's sitting back further or if an A-arm's bent or anything like that. I always check my skid just because you do bend them every now and again. I normally just look right down the track like that, make sure everything's good. Give it a quick once over. And the more you look at it, the more familiar you get with it, the more you will be able to tell if something is not right. And then you can fix it before you go out and you get on the hill and have an issue. It's always good to bring spare plugs with you. The nice thing about the Polaris is it comes with a little holder there. Spare belt is a must. It's got the spark wrench tool right there. You just quarter turn it, pull it out. It's got a Torx on the bottom for undoing. Where's one of them? Anyways, there's a couple Torxes around that make it easier to get to when you undo them. Other end is a spark plug wrench if you need to change your plugs on there. Always nice to know where this is, and always nice to have a spare set of plugs. You can always check your coolant, make sure that you actually have some, make sure it hasn't drained out or anything like that. Check your belt or your chain case oil, depending on what you have. Best thing to do is just visually inspect it, and if there's any cogs missing, then needs to be replaced. Brakes are a good thing to check at the start of the year. Normally they don't really wear out on sleds that often. Always good to run a full tank of oil, because last thing you want to do up there is run out of oil. More often than not, you'll be able to find somebody who's got spare fuel for you if you run out of fuel, but it's a lot harder to find somebody with an oil jug kicking around. But all in all, that kind of sums it up. Let me know what you guys think, and hopefully you have a good season.